29th of April 2023, and it's that time of year where we need to put in our spring bulbs. We're actually a bit late with them this year, mostly on account of the fact that it took quite a long time for them to sort of go on sale. They start at the beginning of the season rather pricey, and they were particularly pricey this year. And then obviously what they don't sell toward the end of the season tends to be discounted. And when you're buying them in numbers like this, you kind of want that cost saving. So most of these we got sort of between 50 and 70% off, and you can see they look pretty good, but definitely some of them need to be put in the ground pretty quick because they've started to shoot already, which is not a problem, but it's an indication that they need to go in the ground. So in terms of what we've got here, we've mostly focused on daffodils and jonquils to naturalize a new garden down the front, which I'll show in a moment. But I think there were 220 daffodils of various types. So 250 sort of jonquil daffodil mix, of which are about 190 daffodils and the rest jonquils. And then we've got 24 tulips, which will all go down the front. And then these Bacchanalia mutabilis. Never seen them before, but it says they naturalize readily. Okay for Australian conditions. They seem to be reasonably, based on that picture, reasonably tall. So what we might do is put them in the mound there behind the pond. So that's our job today. Soil's nice and soft, everything's greened up. You can, if you sort of look very closely, you can start to see a few bulbs coming up already. The very, very first flowers from sort of bulb flowers tend to be the Narcissus paper white, and we can, depending on the year, we can sort of get those from the end of May, and then we tend to have bulb flowers through until about November. Last week, as it happens, we did actually go down and grab a new Lombardy poplar, which is pretty good size, but it's actually just a sapling that's self-seeded. But we managed to dig it up and bring it out here. And it's completely dormant, but should look quite good, I think. This is our beautiful Chinese elm, which is now really starting to come into its own and put on a bit of growth, but also bring in some lovely colour. So this is our newest garden area, just down the front of the property, and sits down one side of the driveway within a pretty nice fence that I built over the summer. I need to identify some trees that are going to come down into this section, and my thinking is that I'm going to move some apple trees from the orchard area and relocate them down here once they go dormant. They've obviously put on a good amount of size in the few years that they've been here, but even more importantly, they have acclimatized to this area. This one down here, this is a Granny Smith. It has grown beautifully here, so it would kind of, in a sense, be a shame to move it. But that's an option. And then there's two apple trees here. That's a Jonathan, and that's a Cox's Orange Pippin. And they're both growing beautifully, but they probably are a little bit too close. Okay, so here's my lot for putting in down the front. There's about 130 bulbs here, I think. We did find more tulips, actually. These Antarctica and another one, crystal something or other. crystal star, actually. I thought they were jonquils, but they're actually tulips. Last week after I put those bulbs in was just use some scrap wood to create a bit of a walkway or orient myself as to where the bulbs are. But also so I can work out where the trees are going to be. So my thoughts are for one tree here, just to the, as you come in the gate here. So one tree just to the right, and another here on the left. I'll replace this one, this is dead. This fig tree is actually doing okay, so that will stay there. There's an apple tree right down the back. What is it? A Jonathan. Looks pretty rough now, but I could come down and give this a bit of a prune, and I think it would go okay. So perhaps another one sort of here. So that'll give us about 5 trees in this little area, well underplanted with a bunch of spring bulbs. Such a nice day. Maybe I should create a path in here, and what would be a really lovely thing to do is to create quite a nice garden in this little section, and then make it a space where anybody can come into who's passing by or wants to stop and have a rest from driving, or just sort of sit and admire this amazing tree here. Maybe I could create a really nice space, put a nice sign on the fence inviting people to come and have a break here, and sort of create a bit of a stone path or gravel path through here. And then eventually, obviously, once the trees grow up, it'll provide some shade, and maybe otherwise just make a flower garden. That's a good idea, I think. Sadly, we can't stay today. Have to. Not have to. We have the pleasure of going to an engagement party. This is what I love about this place. As I've said many times before, you come up from this much lower section where you get a lot of road noise. Come over the crest here, step down into the woodland where there's much less road noise, but it also just looks completely different. It's beautiful and green already. These juvenile leaves. This eucalypt here is really not concerned by me at all. I better say good morning to these sheep. They don't really need feeding now. Chuck, it's very bad manners to stand in your breakfast. You've had enough? Chuck, get out of there. Pearly? Good morning. Lammies? Don't you butt me. Are you all good? Ah, Pearly. How much you got left? Heaps. You alright? You alright? Okay, see ya. Betty.